Rebel Wilson, thank you so much for talking to BBC 100 Women.
It is my pleasure.
How are you?
I feel like I'm very BBC today as well. I'm very serious.
I think you could almost like be a newsreader for us.
I could, you know, coming up now at the 11 a.m. hour. Wait, is that what they say? No, breaking news. I probably won't get hired from this.
It's so interesting because you are one of the most high-profile actresses in Hollywood. I'd say you're a household
I'm in top
name.
1,000 for sure. I'd put myself.
You're one of the top 1,000 actresses
I'm in the top
in Hollywood.
like.
But you have been in those really iconic films that people watch over and over again. Like, I think I might have watched Bridesmaids an insane amount of times.
I mean, that was my first job in America, and like, what a first job to get, to be in that kind of ensemble and to be in a movie that really was one of the first, even though obviously women have been funny for at least 20 years, but no, I'm joking, forever. But that Bridesmaids was one of the first where they're like, wow, women are funny in Hollywood. Yeah. And so to get that as my first job in America was epic. And also to be in the Pitch Perfect franchise, which is like the most successful musical comedy films of all time, which blows my mind when you think about that. I was like, God, are they really? And they're like, yeah, they really are, like bang, 1, 2 and 3. And I'm like, it's so special. And I'm sure it'll be eclipsed at some point, you know. It's like an Olympic record. Someone will come in and like be better. But it's so awesome to be in a part of something so special, and that so many people all around the world have like really, really enjoyed.
Is it true though that you could have been a lawyer?
Well, I am a lawyer.
Oh,
so,
you are
yeah,
a
I
lawyer.
graduated
So
in 2009.
Yeah.
I feel like I have the photo. It's not my best smile, but I was very proud of myself that day.
So happy.
This is 2009 when I graduated. It was a very happy day because I was already obviously, I was a professional actress. I'd been in 10 TV shows by the time I graduated law school. But there was something about me that I was like, I have to finish, I have to complete this degree. It was very, very difficult. Like in Australia, law and medicine, you know, you need the top marks in your final exams to get in, and I got into like the best law school. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna like graduate, even though it was probably clear I was working as an actress.
What was your parents' reaction then when you were like, I want to be an actress in Hollywood? I always imagined though that those words scare parents, right?
It was really bad. I was a very studious young lady, so yeah, they definitely thought I would do something good. Like a more traditional type job, put it that way. So I took a gap year, which I thought was really smart after high school, and I was what's called a youth ambassador for Australia and based in Southern Africa. So that really changed the trajectory of my life. I was going out in and out of malaria zones all the time with the work that I had to do over there, and I got malaria really bad in rural Mozambique. And when I was in the hospital back in South Africa recovering from it, I had a hallucination that I was an actress, and like it was so real. And everyone thought, no, she's just demented, but that was enough to convince me that that's what my life was going to be. So I come back to Australia and I go, guys, I'm going to become a professional actress. I've seen it. I'm going to win an Academy Award. It's like really good. And everyone was like, oh my God, like, no, like you're an idiot. Like no one's going to pick you. Like, no, you're not an actress. Like you're naturally quite a shyer person. I was like, yeah, but I've seen the vision. So I went and enrolled in law school, but did acting sneaky at night to try to get in there. Yeah.
What about like, so when Bridesmaid took off,
yeah, I mean, that was big because they came over for the premiere and they were like, oh, she is like legit now.
It's interesting because I have read, so you were successful with Bridesmaids at age 30?
Yeah.
And you called yourself a late bloomer.
I definitely do think that.
Why though?
When I was 29 turning 30 and I had a great career at that point in Australia. And then I got offered a big network TV contract in Australia, and I was like, oh, but if I don't go now, like it's a bit late if you're already 30 or whatever, to come to Hollywood, I think, as a woman. Although there's many exceptions to that rule and many ladies that have broken out in their 50s and stuff and have incredible careers.
We don't hear enough about that,
you don't hear about it. But
I think 30 is still young.
It's like the younger, more ingenue girls, and then they develop more. So I was just like, okay, if I don't go now to Hollywood, I'll never make it. So I sold everything that I owned, my car, my computer, my apartment, everything. I came to America with one suitcase and like one little pillow. And like, but it was a bit late, and I was probably overqualified for the very small role I had in Bridesmaids.
You are now producing, so you've got credits on Hustle. And
yes,
Isn't It
Romantic was my first one.
Yeah.
The Hustle with Anne Hathaway, and then now Senior Year, which is a big cheerleading comedy.
Tell us a little bit about how it's
great
different.
To have the power, because obviously coming up in the industry, I had to work for like a lot of guys coming up, where you kind of get the crappier roles, like the roles just weren't as well written, as well developed. It would just be very hard to kind of put kind of your comedy or your joke sometimes into it if you didn't have any power. So what I did is I used all those experiences in a positive way and like learnt stuff from watching these guys, but really wanted to get to the point where I had the power to make the movies and choose the storylines and choose the characters and choose who I put in the movies. And it's just cool because you can be more authentic and put more of your messages. And my latest one, it's just so girl power, and there's so many...
And this is your movie that you're directing next year?
No, this is one I've just shot.
You've just shot, yeah, and you are directing a movie as well.
Yeah, and then I've now gone even further and been offered a directing job for a movie script that I've written called Girl Group. So that'll go into production in 2022. And I'm so passionate about the stories I want to tell, and so why not go for the top job?
Talking of empowerment, you've been on a year of health.
Yeah. I didn't predict the pandemic, but weirdly, I thought sometimes I'm a little psychic and I go, oh, I feel like I'm not going to be working much this year. And I feel like turning 40, I'm going to like concentrate on my health. And I was dealing with fertility stuff, and the doctors were like, well, yeah, if you're healthier, you have better chances. So that all kind of culminated. And so the moment it hit 2020, I was like, okay, yeah, it's going to be my year of health. I'm going to put it like publicly out on Instagram and stuff for accountability.
But I think
who knows whether that was the smartest, but...
And why was that important for you to do it that way?
Because I did want to make a lasting change, and I wanted to be accountable to myself for it. So making it very public kind of helped. It was risky, I guess. Because before I had lost weight and then put it back on, and, you know, you get criticism sometimes for that. And so it was just, yeah, I just was like, okay, I'll just make the decision to make it public.
The number of headlines about you losing weight has been
it's insane.
Phenomenal.
Because I look at what happened for me in 2019. I had like 4 pretty successful movies come out, and like had done all this amazing stuff career-wise. But then in the next year, all I did was just lose 80 pounds. And like the attention that gets...
It was insane.
...is way more than being in an Academy Award nominated film and like producing my first movie and doing all this stuff.
Can I read you one headline?
Oh yeah, sure.
Rebel Wilson has a Bond girl moment in an incredible curve-hugging swimsuit.
Wow.
How do you feel about
I never thought I'd be described anywhere near a Bond girl.
How do you feel about those sorts of headlines about your weight loss?
I've noticed that it's been getting a lot of attention, and I go, so is that what a woman has to do in the world, is just lose weight to like get attention? For me, it was so much bigger. It was about just being the healthiest version of me. So it wasn't about the size or a number or whatever. But it's fascinating. Why are people so obsessed with it? Like, I know what it's like to be a woman who is essentially invisible to most people because of not being seen as traditionally like beautiful or whatever. So I know what it's like when nobody holds the door open for you or you know, just looks at you almost like you can have no value because you're not seen as good looking to them. So I know what that's like, and then you really you get like this bias towards you just purely because of your appearance, which is wrong. Like, I do think it's wrong. But you can't deny that that's how society does operate.
It's kind of conflicting. It must leave you feeling a bit mixed about it, because on the one hand, like, you shouldn't have to lose weight to suddenly be treated nicely.
And I'm proud that the message that's got across is that it wasn't about just losing weight. It was just about me being healthier overall, and that's what I'm trying to encourage other people out there, because that should be the goal. It should never be to fit some certain weird beauty standard that society deems is the beauty standard of this year, or it should never be about that. My like body type before, when I was a size 16 to 18, was like the body type of like the 17th, 18th century. Like I would have crushed in that era. But I got a lot of pushback from my own team actually here in Hollywood when I said, okay, I'm going to do this year of health. I feel like I'm really going to physically transform and change my life. And they were like, why? Why would you want to do that? Because I was earning millions of dollars being, you know, the funny fat girl and being that person. And I go, well, because even though I was still very confident being bigger and, you know, loved myself, you know, would rock a red carpet, and even though I was probably double the size and sometimes triple the weight of other actresses, but like I still felt confident in that. But I knew deep down inside some of the emotional eating behaviors I was doing was not healthy. Like I did not need a tub of ice cream every night. That was me, you know, numbing emotions with using food, which wasn't the healthiest thing.
Was that dealing with fame?
I think it was dealing with not being a natural performer and having to perform almost every day, and just things that I hadn't kind of processed or dealt with in my life that was manifesting as emotional eating. And then I was like, that's not the healthiest. This is when I first got pretty famous after Pitch Perfect. And I'm like, look at me, I'm, you know, rocking like a black leather bodysuit, custom made. I love that person. Like, yeah, she was struggling with emotional eating, but I also like just love that girl. And I love that she was just out there living her best life, playing this character called Fat Amy and just like getting out there and crushing it.
With the character of Fat Amy, you know, there were those sort of fat jokes that were made as well. Do you feel now you can't do that?
Well, see, it's weird. I looked at Fat Amy in the Pitch Perfect scripts and go, that's the best character, I personally thought. So I would be honoured to play that character. I never thought of it as a negative, because I'm the type of person that some people see, being bigger as like a hindrance to being an actress, and I go, I'm going to use it and use it for my comedy. There was some people that said, oh, well, will she not be funny now? And I'm like, well, check out my new movie, Senior Year, coming out. And see what you think, guys. What it has done career-wise is open up this whole other door of like dramatic roles. And so now I've got this great movie that I just shot in the north of England called The Almond and the Seahorse, based on a West End play. And would I have been given that role if I was big? I don't know. Because people would still might associate me too much with some of the comedy roles, and physically transforming and giving a performance that is just so different. I think it helped looking different.
I'd be interested to know if you feel that pressure of being put on a pedestal when it comes to the body positivity movement.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, because I was somebody who was like really advocates for like loving yourself and whatever size, and you want to like love and embrace yourself and be positive about your body. You're only given that body, so that is what you've got to work with. That's your canvas. But also, I don't want to be seen to like promote unhealthiness or extreme, you know, and some of the things that I was doing, emotionally eating and carrying the extra weight was unhealthy. So what I'm trying to do is say, you can be whatever size you want, just try to be the healthiest version of you, and that can look different for different people.
You've shared your weight loss journey on Instagram. You've got millions of followers on social media. Are you conscious of the sorts of pressures, I guess, there are for young women as well on social media?
Oh yeah, I mean, because now if you get into this culture of like touching up all your photos and whatever, it's unrealistic. But I don't know, but then I'm definitely guilty of like posting thirst trap photos on Instagram, mainly because I'm still single, so I'm like, oh yeah, okay. That's mainly why I do it. But also, I didn't think that it could be contributing to some larger problem in society, which I hope it isn't. And then if so,
have you ever thought about that?
I feel like, yeah, I've grown into my looks 100%, and like feel like I'm at 41 now, like looking better than I ever have before, which I think is rare. Most people peak, don't they, at like 20? And maybe for me it's just about my life journey coming into line, you know, and for me it only kind of clicked together at 40 properly. But what I try to do is share just enough that hopefully people can understand like some of the struggles I've been through, and then And the reason why I share it is to hopefully help people. So why I've been sharing things about fertility or talking about a health transformation and emotional eating is ultimately to try to help people.
The fertility issue that you've talked about, that's really personal and intimate.
Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was like 20 with something called Polycystic Ovarian syndrome, and which made sense, like that I gained a lot of weight rapidly with that and then have fertility issues. And so it's like, I think something like 10% of women have it. So it's very common, and a lot of people don't even know they have it. And so it's just, I think it's just good to talk. That's why I love when everybody opens up about all sorts of things now. Mental health is obviously a big topic with a lot of celebs and people, high profile people talking about that.
But fertility is a really interesting one, because I don't think a lot of women, certainly in the public eye, open up about it.
Behind the scenes, like all my actress friends are all freezing their eggs and all kind of pursuing options. And so we all talk about it, but just not so publicly sometimes, because it can be an emotional roller coaster. And I'm certainly, you know, went to all this trouble and froze my eggs, and then unfortunately because of my condition the quality of the eggs wasn't good enough, and I have to repeat the process and keep doing it and keep trying and put a lot of effort in. And that was part of the reason why I tried to get healthier as well. I'm still trying on the fertility journey, even though like it is emotional and you get hopeful and then you know, your hopes are dashed. And so it's like I feel for any woman going through it. But I was the classic example of like a career woman who went out into the world, didn't even think about kids, and then suddenly in your mid-30s is like, oh, hang on, do I want that as an option? And then if I do, what do I need to do? It could be great if I had my own children, but I don't know whether that's going to happen. And so I'm trying not to have any expectations set on an outcome, just that I'm the healthiest I can be, I'm going to try, and what'll happen will happen.
You tweeted a few years back about sexual harassment that you had experienced in the industry. Yeah. And you had said at the time you were no longer going to be polite about it. Tell me a little bit more about what happened to you, if you want to.
Yeah.
And, and how you dealt with it.
I guess in terms of sexual harassment, like all women in the industry have had like things like the little comments when you've been at meetings and you got to try to be one of the boys and like laugh along with the jokes, and even though they're talking about other actresses and stuff in a way that's like not really cool. But I only had like 2 incidents. One is the classic with a director in a hotel room. That was in Australia, and I was so innocent and naive. I was in my 20s, and I literally thought I was going to have a meeting about comedy and talk about comedy. And then he kept trying to give me more and more alcohol, and I'm not a big drinker, luckily. And then the director gets a call from his wife, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and it was one of those phones that if somebody left a message, you could hear it through the speaker of the phone. And she started saying, oh, you've got Rebel in that hotel room, like, you were going to sleep with her, blah, blah, blah. And I heard the message, and that was the first time I thought, oh my God, like, what is this? What's going on? And then I just grabbed my bag and got out of there, luckily, before anything had happened. And I wonder if that woman, if I hadn't heard her voice on the phone, screaming through the phone, what could have happened? I don't know.
Did you tell anyone at the time?
No, because it was a big director, and I didn't...
And you've never named names either?
No. Maybe that's the legal side of me, that I don't want to go through any unnecessary court cases or whatever. And yeah, I just got on with the job and did it. And luckily nothing else happened apart from that one night. And then many years later, so I'm in Hollywood, and you know, pretty famous. The Pitch Perfect movies had come out and stuff, and had a male co-star. I was on set, summons me kind of out of my trailer in the middle of the day, and it takes me to like this room where a couple of his male buddies are with their iPhones, and he pulls down his pants and asks me to. And I know, again, like it can kind of sound comic the way I tell the story because I've processed it now. And I was in shock. I was like, what's going on? Just kept saying no. Like, what is this? Like, no. Like, no. And his buddies are laughing, and he's kind of clearly getting off on it. This was before Me Too, though, so I didn't quite know what to do, and I was in a foreign country. So I called my agent, I reported it, we reported it to the studio. I was apparently the 4th woman to have made a complaint against this guy too. But I stayed and I finished the job because I felt like it was the professional thing to do, which now I wouldn't do. If something like that occurs, now I think I have the courage to be like, okay, that is disgusting. Obviously some people have been picked up in the Me Too movement, but there's a lot of others that haven't. And now I think it would be different. I wouldn't have as much empathy.
And is that what you mean when you say you're going to no longer be polite moving forward?
Yeah, it's not like things change overnight with the Me Too movement and then suddenly it's all safe, and it's not like that. There have been very positive changes, but there still need to be
But
more.
I guess those are the changes that you can make now that you're in these roles as a producer and a director.
And so like on my movie Senior Year that I just produced, I had like a younger actress play the younger version of me, and she came over from Australia, so she's in a foreign country, she's vulnerable, and I just said, like, if you have any issues, if anybody doing something, you know, or says something or whatever, please come to me as the female producer on the film, and I want to particularly, you know, protect. And I had a lot of young cast in that movie, and I feel very conscious of, like, you know, making sure they feel safe.
Are you hopeful that you'll win an Academy Award one day? Is that your aim?
Yeah, that would be the goal. And I was so lucky to be in Jojo Rabbit that got nominated for like Best Picture. That was such a gorgeous movie. And I think, and then now, you know, doing projects that have a really good cachet. That's awesome. But I still will do the comedies as well, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's what people wouldn't want you to leave.
No, I can't. That's my love as well.